welcome you to the Ask Jeff YouTube channel. Here's today's question. Where do Christians get the basis for believing that babies go to heaven when they die? Does that include miscarriages, aborted babies, and extreme special needs people? A fabulous question. In fact, it's a very frequent question that we get asked not only on Wednesday nights when we do the full edition, but even here on the YouTube channel. So the question is, where do Christians, where do Bible believers get this idea? Well, it's actually rooted in the Old Testament in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 1. Let me set the scene. The Israelites have come out of Egypt. They've crossed the Red Sea. They're in the wilderness. They're on their way, which should be about an 11-day journey to what you and I know as the Holy Land or the Promised Land. But remember what happened? It said that people began to whine and they griped and they complained that they had it better off in Egypt than there. So what did the Lord do? The Lord said that everybody who complained, everybody who griped would die in the wilderness, a 40-year experience, and would not be allowed into the Promised Land. Verse 39 of Deuteronomy chapter 1 is what is so critical to this question. It says that those who could not yet understand or could not discern between good and evil, they were the ones who were allowed to persevere and to go into the Promised Land. And so in today's contemporary context, we oftentimes call that the age of accountability. In other words, when a 3-year-old knows what is right or wrong, but they don't know the why. They know that if they touch something mom or dad has told them not to, they get punished for it. That's right versus wrong. The difference between good and evil is an understanding of sin condition and the consequence of sin, and that our sin is contrary to God Himself. So, to work this question backwards, in the case of those who might have some type of special need, as we call it in our context, even at age 30-something, they may not have the cognitive ability to discern. They fall in that same category as a 3-year-old, or of course one who experienced a miscarriage, abortion, etc. So that is the biblical text, among others, that shows that those who do not yet know the difference between good and evil are under the grace umbrella of God. Kind of the secondary, the bigger question is, so does that mean that babies, quote, get a free pass? The answer to this is both yes and no. In the book of 2 Samuel chapter 7, the Lord makes it clear through the life of David and the child that was born between him and Bathsheba that when it dies 7 days later, David makes this statement that David will one day go where the child is, but the child will never be where David is. And of course, that's one of those texts that we say evidence of that grace umbrella. But here's the important story there. Where was David speaking? Because when David died, even though he was a great man of God, he didn't go into the throne room of God. Why? Because the shed blood of the Messiah, Jesus Christ, had not come to fruition. You get into Luke chapter 16, you get this concept of Abraham's bosom. Really, it was the residence, the eternal dwelling of the believers prior to what we know as the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But don't panic. It was a good place. In fact, that one named Lazarus, that beggar, is there, and he's having the time of his, quote, proverbial life. At the end of the day, I wish this was one of those 30-minute questions on Wednesday night. It's really a win-win. And I don't know how the Lord has it set up. Does He have it set up where a 2-year-old, for lack of better terms, gets a free pass upon an untimely death? Or is a 2-year-old in Abraham's bosom to be resurrected at the earthly kingdom of Jesus to ultimately make a decision for him at the end of that period? You know that either way is good. And that's the grace of God, that for those who have yet to understand or to grasp, He gives them the grace of His provision. So again, it's one of those kind of tough questions, but to whoever asks it, whether it's Deuteronomy 1, 2 Samuel, or a host of other passages, it's not just something that we want to teach, it is a biblical concept that we've explored. Great question. If you have one, send it to AskJeff.net. Maybe your question will be tomorrow's. Thanks for being a part of today's daily question. Now, we answer a question each and every day. Please feel free to submit a new question at AskJeff.net. We may not have gotten to yours today, but we eventually will. Continue to be a part of this. Subscribe so you don't miss out on a question every day.